Have you ever felt like you are just drowning in information, but you're not quite getting those like key insights that help you really understand it? You know, like you are gathering all these little pieces, but you can't see the big picture.
Yeah, like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's so much information out there, but how do you like actually connect the dots in a way that's meaningful? Right. So that's where the deep dive comes in.
Absolutely.
What we do is we take a source that you are curious about and we like pull out all the essential knowledge, all of those like aha moments, those surprising bursts of insight without overwhelming you with all the other stuff, you know. And this particular deep dive is tailored just for you, the learner.
That's right. For someone who values clarity, efficiency, and really getting to the core of what matters.
Yeah, like understanding things thoroughly, not just superficially. And so today, we are going to dive headfirst into this really interesting book, The Science of Getting Rich, by Wallace D. Wattles. And you, the learner, brought this book to our attention. And it's a really interesting one because it's written not as a bunch of like abstract philosophy, but it's a very practical guide for people whose primary need is money and who want tangible results. So it's not just theory, it's about actually achieving what you want.
Yeah, it's like a user manual for wealth creation. What really struck me is his central argument that getting rich isn't about chance, you know, or luck, but it's an exact science. It's like he's saying there's a formula, a set of principles that if you understand and apply them consistently, you can basically get rich.
Like it's predictable.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so let's just get right into it. The first core idea in the book is this concept of the right to be rich.
Right.
And Wattles does not hold back here. He states quite clearly, and I'm quoting here, "It is not possible to live a really complete or successful life unless one is rich."
Yeah, that's a bold statement right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But to understand what he means, you had to look at how he defines rich. Because he's not just talking about accumulating possessions, it's more about having the resources to actually live your fullest life.
Like to really develop your talents and like nourish your soul.
Right, he says you need many things to use to do that, and in our current world, money is how you get those things.
So it's not so much about greed as it is about having what you need to thrive.
Precisely. He actually argues that the desire for wealth isn't this negative thing. It's more like the desire for a richer, fuller, and more abundant life, which he sees as completely natural and praiseworthy. He even suggests that someone who doesn't aspire to live more abundantly is a bit abnormal.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. He flips the script on how we usually think about wealth.
Totally. And then he breaks down life into three main areas: body, mind, and soul. And he makes the point that all three of these require resources, a lot of times financial ones, to be fully expressed.
So it's like your body needs good food, comfortable shelter, you know, those basic things.
Right. And your mind needs stimulation. It needs education, maybe travel, you know, exposure to new things.
Yeah, I'm sure that resonates with you, the learner, always seeking knowledge and new experiences.
Absolutely. And then even your soul needs to be able to give and support others, which often takes resources as well. Wattles' point is that poverty constricts all of these areas. It prevents you from fully living in every way.
Okay, so he establishes why wanting to be rich is actually a good thing, you know, not something to feel guilty about.
Right.
But then the question becomes, how do you actually do it?
Right.
And this is where it gets really interesting because he says there is a science of getting rich. It's not some random occurrence.
Exactly. This is his big idea that getting rich is a science just like physics or math. You follow the principles and the results are predictable, like a recipe.
Yeah.
You have the right ingredients and you combine them the right way, you get what you set out to make.
That's a powerful analogy. And he argues that the way you get money and property comes as a result of doing things in a certain way. He even goes on to say that people who naturally do things this certain way, whether they realize it or not, tend to get rich, while people who don't stay poor.
And he points out that you can see this playing out in the real world.
Yeah, like how sometimes you see rich and poor people living in the same area or working in the same industry. So clearly, it's not just about environment or even talent.
Exactly.
And even being thrifty and saving money isn't the whole picture. Because there are lots of people who are really careful with their money, but they don't get rich. And there are others who are maybe not so good at saving, but they still manage to accumulate wealth somehow.
Right. It seems like there's something else going on, something deeper than just hard work or good luck.
And this certain way, this science of getting rich, it's not some secret knowledge that only certain people have access to.
No, not at all. He says anyone who can read and understand his instructions can get rich using this method. And he even addresses the issue of starting with limited resources.
Which is huge for so many people, right? Like, what if you don't have much money to begin with?
Exactly. He argues that lack of capital is not an insurmountable barrier. If you start thinking and acting in a certain way, you'll attract the resources you need as a consequence of your changed approach.
Okay, but here's a question that often comes up. What if all the good opportunities are already taken? Like, is opportunity monopolized? Do some people have an unfair advantage?
Wattles tackles this head-on. He says very clearly that no one is kept poor simply because all the opportunities have been snatched up or because the wealthy are hoarding all the resources. He does acknowledge that there might be some industries that are harder to break into, like he mentions railroads in his time.
But then he also points out that new industries are constantly emerging.
That's right. In his time, it was things like electric railways, even the very early days of air travel. He's saying the landscape of opportunity is always shifting. It's not static.
So it's about looking for those new avenues, not just focusing on what's already established. And what about the working class? He talks about that too, right?
He does. He acknowledges the power imbalances that exist, but he suggests that workers might be held back not just by their employers, but by their own way of thinking and acting. He even points to examples like the cooperative movements in Belgium, where workers were able to improve their situation through collective action.
Oh, that's interesting. He seems to be emphasizing that there's more potential for change than people might realize. But at the core of it all, it comes back to this idea of abundance.
Yes.
He really stresses that the supply of riches is inexhaustible, meaning there's enough for everyone. And this includes not just the visible resources we see, but also what he calls the invisible supply, this formless substance he keeps mentioning.
This formless substance is central to his whole philosophy. It's like a primordial thinking substance that everything comes from, and it responds to our needs and desires. So scarcity isn't the problem. It's our failure to align ourselves with this certain way of thinking and acting in relation to this substance that keeps us poor.
Okay, so now we come to the really core principle, the first principle in the science of getting rich. And this is where it gets a little more, metaphysical.
Yeah.
He states that thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. That's a pretty big statement.
It is. He's saying this original substance is actually thinking, and a thought held in this substance, like a clear mental image, has the power to bring that thing into existence. He sees this process at work in nature, like how a planet is formed or an oak tree grows.
It's like every oak tree started as a thought in this original substance.
Exactly. And he applies the same principle to everything humans create, like a house, a car, anything. It had to exist as a thought in someone's mind first.
Okay, but how does that relate to us, like regular people trying to get rich?
He's saying that we, as humans, have this unique ability to originate thought. We can consciously form images of what we want, and in doing so, we influence this formless substance to bring those things into being. He calls it working with the Father.
It's like we're co-creating with the universe.
Exactly. And from this, he lays out 3 fundamental propositions. 1, that there's this one original formless thinking stuff. 2, that a thought held in this substance produces the thing that's imagined. And 3, and this is the key one, that we as humans can impress our thoughts on this substance and actually create what we're thinking about.
It's like a blueprint for conscious creation.
Yeah.
But he's clear that you have to accept this whole premise completely, without any doubts. He even cautions against entertaining ideas that contradict this view, because the whole science of getting rich relies on this fundamental belief.
It really is a starting point of faith. And this might lead to some questions for you, the learner, especially if you have certain spiritual or ethical beliefs that you're trying to reconcile with this idea of pursuing wealth.
Yeah, because for some, the two might seem at odds. But Wattles actually addresses this directly in his chapter on increasing life. He says, and I'm quoting again, "Get rid of the last vestige of the old idea that there is a deity whose will it is that you should be poor."
And his reasoning behind this is fascinating. He says that the intelligent substance, which he equates to God, inherently desires an increase of life in all forms. And since this substance is in everything, including us, It wants us to experience more life, to grow, and to expand.
So it's not actually against God's will to be rich.
Not at all. He's saying God can express himself more fully through us when we have more resources to work with. So our desire for wealth in this context is aligned with this universal desire for growth.
So it's not just about personal gain, it's about aligning with something bigger.
Exactly. He says, nature is friendly to your plans and everything is naturally for you. He wants to get rid of that idea that the universe is working against us or that there's only a limited amount of good to go around.
So it's not a zero-sum game.
Right. But he does offer clarification. The goal of becoming rich shouldn't be to just indulge in superficial pleasures or what he calls swinish gratification.
So it's not about being greedy or materialistic.
No, it's about using your resources to develop all of your capacities, physical, mental, and spiritual, in a balanced way.
It's like becoming the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the importance of moving beyond a mindset of competition.
So it's not about fighting over a limited pie.
No, it's about creating new value. Your success should lead to others having more, not less. He actually says that the best way to help the poor is not by giving them handouts, but by becoming rich yourself and demonstrating what's possible.
It's like leading by example.
Yeah.
But what about this formless substance? Where does that fit into all of this?
He encourages you to look beyond just the visible supply of wealth in the world and focus on this unlimited potential within the formless substance, trusting that whatever you need will come to you. It's about recognizing that abundance is the underlying truth of the universe, even if we don't always see it manifested in our immediate surroundings.
So if we're not supposed to compete for limited resources, how do riches come to you?
Wattles clarifies that while you don't need to engage in unethical or exploitative practices, dealing with other people is still a necessary part of the process. The key is in the value you offer.
He talks about giving more in use value than you take in cash value.
Right. He uses the example of a book. The materials it's made of might not be worth the price, but the ideas it contains can have a huge positive impact on your life. So the use value is much greater than the cash value.
Okay, so it's about making sure your transactions benefit the other person as well.
Exactly. And he extends this to business as a whole, emphasizing ethical conduct and the importance of ensuring that your business activities contribute to the well-being of everyone involved.
So it's not just about profit, it's about creating win-win situations.
Exactly. Now, how exactly does this wealth manifest in your life? Waddle says it's not about things magically appearing out of thin air. It's more about the supreme intelligence acting upon the minds of men, leading to opportunities and transactions that bring you what you desire.
So it's like a subtle but powerful force guiding things in your direction.
Yeah, and he stresses the importance of holding a clear mental image of what you want with absolute certainty and faith that it's already yours, even before it materializes in the physical world. You need to claim it in your mind.
And this ties back to the idea that the original substance wants us to have abundance, right?
Right. He's saying this original substance wants to express itself fully through us, and that includes having the resources to live a rich and fulfilling life. And he encourages you to ask for what you want largely, not to limit yourself with small thinking.
Don't be afraid to dream big.
Exactly. But he's also clear that there's a very specific first step in this process of manifesting your desires, and that's gratitude.
Oh yeah, he dedicates a whole chapter to that, doesn't he?
He does. He's really adamant about the importance of gratitude and establishing this connection with the formless intelligence and allowing it to work in your life.
It's like gratitude is the key that unlocks the door.
Yeah. And he explains that gratitude helps you stay in harmony with the creative energies of the universe and prevents you from falling back into that competitive mindset, which, as we talked about, can be a real obstacle to achieving wealth.
It keeps your focus on abundance instead of scarcity.
Exactly. And he even talks about this law of gratitude, where your sincere thankfulness to the supreme intelligence creates this reciprocal flow of abundance back towards you. It's like the more grateful you are, the more you receive.
It's a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And he points out that gratitude isn't just about attracting future blessings, it's also about preventing you from getting caught up in dissatisfaction with your present circumstances.
So it's about appreciating what you have now while also working towards what you want.
Precisely. He says a grateful mind focuses on the best, and as a result, tends to become the best. And he makes this really interesting connection between gratitude and faith. He says that true faith is actually born out of gratitude.
Oh, I like that. It's like when you're genuinely grateful for what you have, it's easier to believe that more good things are coming.
Right. And without that foundation of gratitude, it's much harder to maintain that unshakable faith that's so essential in this whole process. So he encourages cultivating this constant state of thankfulness for everything in your life, no matter how small it might seem. And he even suggests extending your gratitude to encompass everything because in some way, everything has contributed to your current position and your ongoing advancement.
Okay, that's interesting. But what about the people who might be contributing to the problems in the world, like the super wealthy or corrupt politicians? Are we supposed to be grateful to them too?
He actually addresses this directly. He says, don't waste your energy criticizing them or focusing on their shortcomings. Their role in the current system, however imperfect it might seem, has actually created the very opportunities you can now leverage to create wealth. So, in a way, you can be grateful even to them.
It's like seeing the bigger picture and recognizing that even seemingly negative things can play a role in your ultimate success.
Exactly. And once you have that foundation of gratitude, the next step is thinking in the certain way, which is all about forming a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. You can't effectively communicate your desires to the formless substance if they're just vague wishes.
It's like the difference between sending a letter with a specific address and just scattering messages to the wind.
Exactly. He encourages you to define your desires with absolute clarity, just like someone planning their dream house. You have to be able to see it, feel it, experience it in your mind as if it's already real.
And then hold that vision consistently, right?
Yes, just like a sailor navigating by a fixed star. But he's clear that you don't need to force yourself to concentrate on this vision all the time.
Like you don't need to do special exercises or anything.
Right. He says if your desire is strong enough, it will naturally capture your attention. It's the things we don't really care about that require a lot of effort to focus on.
That makes sense. But a clear vision isn't enough, is it? He also talks about the importance of purpose and faith.
Absolutely. You need a strong purpose behind your desire, a reason why you want to achieve it. And underpinning both the vision and the purpose must be an unwavering faith that what you want is already on its way to you.
And he encourages you to actually live in that desired reality in your mind, to feel the joy and satisfaction as if it's already yours.
Right. And to maintain that sense of ownership, never letting doubt creep in. And this is where gratitude comes back into play. You need to be genuinely grateful for what you're receiving even before it physically manifests.
Okay, so you form the vision, you cultivate the faith,
Yeah.
you practice gratitude, but what about the role of will? He dedicates a whole chapter to how to use the will, right?
And he does, and his advice here might be surprising. He says that you should primarily use your willpower on yourself, not on trying to control other people or external circumstances.
So it's not about manipulating others to get what you want.
Exactly. He's very clear that trying to mentally force people to do things is just as wrong as using physical force. We don't have the right to impose our will on others, and he says you don't need to try and force God or the formless substance to give you things either.
It's not about bending the universe to your will.
Right. He says the substance is actually more than willing to provide for us. The resistance comes from our own limitations.
So what's the right way to use our will?
It's about disciplining your own mind to think and act in the certain way. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard, not trying to force others to conform to your desires. He says the legitimate use of the will is to compel yourself to think and act in a certain way.
And he talks about the dangers of doubt and unbelief.
Yes.
Right?
He says they can create negative energy that hinders your progress. Belief is crucial. You need to constantly remind yourself of your vision and actively reject thoughts of poverty or lack.
So don't dwell on what you don't want. Focus on what you do want.
Precisely. And he strongly advises against studying poverty or thinking about it too much. Instead, focus on making good and creating wealth, which is ultimately the best way to help those who are struggling.
It's about being a living example of possibility. And he expands on this in the next chapter. Further use of the will.
Right. He emphasizes the importance of not letting past experiences or negative thoughts about the future cloud your vision. He says to let go of past financial struggles and to avoid engaging with pessimistic views or dwelling on the negative aspects of the current world.
It's about focusing on the positive evolution that's always happening, even if it's not always obvious. He even suggests thinking and speaking of those who are currently poor as people who are in the process of becoming rich.
It's a powerful reframing of the whole situation, and he clarifies that dedicating your full attention to getting rich, when understood in this creative and expansive way, doesn't make you materialistic or self-absorbed. In fact, he says it's the noblest aim because it allows you to support all other good things in life.
And it allows you to help others more effectively.
Right. He says that true wealth, attained through this creative process, leads to physical health, moral and spiritual growth, and genuine happiness, free from the anxieties of competition.
And he encourages you to keep your eyes fixed on your vision, seeing the underlying truth of abundance, even in the midst of challenging circumstances.
Exactly. And his advice for truly understanding these principles is to stick with his teachings and avoid getting distracted by other systems or theories. He even recommends reading his book daily and committing it to memory to reinforce these ideas.
So it's about really immersing yourself in this way of thinking until it becomes second nature.
Okay, so we've covered the importance of thought, belief, and gratitude. But he also emphasizes the need for action, right?
Absolutely. He dedicates a whole section to acting in this certain way. And he's very clear that while thought is the creative power, it has to be coupled with action in the real world. Just thinking about being rich won't make it so.
So you have to take concrete steps to move towards your goals. Exactly. And he reminds us that you should always strive to give more in use value than you receive in cash value in your interactions. But he's also clear that this scientific use of thought doesn't involve trying to mystically manipulate circumstances or control other people.
So no mind control or anything like that.
No, not at all. He says the creative forces work through natural channels. Our role is to maintain the vision, the purpose, the faith, and the gratitude, and then to act in alignment with those things.
And to act now in our present circumstances.
Right. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity or the ideal conditions. Take action in your current business or job with the people and things around you right now.
So it's about making the most of what you have in this moment. And even if you feel like you're in the wrong job or business, he doesn't advocate for rash or impulsive changes.
No, he says to hold the vision of your ideal work with faith and purpose, but to act with diligence and commitment in your present situation. Use it as a stepping stone to get where you want to be.
So it's about taking responsible action while staying focused on your ultimate goals.
Exactly. And he talks about the importance of efficient action, which is about being effective, not just busy. It's about focusing on the quality of your actions, not just the quantity.
So it's not about working yourself to the bone, it's about working smarter.
Right. He says that each day should be a success in terms of doing what can be done that day efficiently and effectively. And he even suggests that failures in small things can have negative consequences. So it's about being mindful and intentional in everything you do.
Don't underestimate the power of the small stuff.
Exactly. And he reminds us that every action can be made more efficient by holding that vision of success in your mind while you're performing it and by putting your faith and purpose into it.
So it's about aligning your actions with your thoughts and beliefs. And what about those times when we feel overwhelmed or rushed? He talks about that too, right?
He does. He says that whenever you feel that sense of hurry or urgency, it's a sign that you're slipping back into the competitive mindset. The best thing to do is to stop, refocus on your vision, and give thanks that what you want is already on its way.
So gratitude is like a reset button.
Exactly. It brings you back into alignment with the creative forces of the universe. And then, whether you decide to change your vocation or not, he emphasizes that your actions should always convey the impression of increase.
What does he mean by that?
He's saying that the desire for increase, for more life and abundance, is a fundamental force in the universe. It's what drives all human activity. And you should strive to convey this sense of growth and expansion in everything you do.
So it's about radiating this energy of abundance.
Exactly. And you do that by holding an unshakable faith in your own success and letting that confidence permeate every action. He says, feel that you are getting rich, and that in so doing, you are making others rich, and you will impart this feeling to every person with whom you come in contact.
It's about inspiring others with your own belief in abundance.
Right. But he cautions against boasting or being arrogant about it. True faith is quiet and confident, not loud and showy.
So let your actions speak louder than words. And he reinforces the importance of giving more than you take in every transaction, making sure you're adding value to the lives of others.
And he assures us that when we do this consistently, the supreme intelligence will guide people and opportunities towards us. Our businesses will grow and we'll experience unexpected benefits.
It's like the universe conspiring to help us succeed.
Exactly. But throughout all of this, he warns against the temptation to seek power over others. He says that's a trap of the competitive mindset. True mastery is about mastering yourself and your environment, not about controlling other people.
So it's about empowerment, not domination.
Right. And this whole idea of conveying the impression of increase applies not just to business owners, but to everyone, including professionals and wage earners. He dedicates a chapter to the advancing man, emphasizing that these principles apply across all walks of life.
So no matter what your job is, you can apply these ideas to create success.
Exactly. He uses the example of a doctor who embodies these principles and achieves phenomenal results in their practice. He also talks about how important it is for clergymen and teachers to understand and teach this science of abundant life so they can inspire others to live more fully.
And for wage earners, he emphasizes the importance of forming that clear vision of what they want and then acting with faith and purpose in their current work.
Right. He says, hold the faith and purpose of increase during work hours, and you are certain to receive something. If you do not receive that which you seek, you will receive something much better.
So even if you don't get exactly what you expect, something good will come from it if you're following these principles.
Exactly. And he encourages wage earners to keep striving for advancement, not just to please their employer, but to further their own growth and progress. He says, God has not made you to be a crawling, creeping thing. You are to command, and your dominion is vast.
He wants us to realize our full potential. And he assures us that as we progress in this certain way, new opportunities will naturally arise.
He says, no man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him.
So lack of opportunity is not an excuse.
Right. He's saying the universe will conspire to support you if you're aligned with these principles.
Now, I know some people might be skeptical about this whole exact science of getting rich.
He addresses this directly in his concluding remarks.
Yeah, he acknowledges that some people might scoff at the idea, believing that wealth is limited, or that societal change has to happen first.
He counters that by saying that those beliefs are based on the competitive mindset, which is exactly what he's encouraging us to move away from. He says individuals can get rich under any government, and that a significant number of people practicing this science will eventually change the system for the better.
So it's not about waiting for the world to change. It's about changing yourself first.
Precisely. And he emphasizes that creative wealth creation, the kind he's talking about, benefits everyone, whereas competitive wealth creation often harms others.
And he offers some practical advice for staying on track. He says to avoid dwelling on potential disasters or future problems, to focus on doing your best in the present moment.
Right, and he talks about guarding your speech, never speaking negatively about yourself or your circumstances, never admitting the possibility of failure.
So it's about cultivating a positive mindset and speaking things into existence.
Exactly, and he encourages us to train ourselves to see the world as a process of becoming, always moving towards something better.
So even what appears negative is just undeveloped potential.
Right, and he says to never feel defeated by setbacks or disappointments. If you keep going in the certain way and don't get exactly what you expected, something even better will come your way.
So trust the process.
Exactly, and never stop striving for something greater. He says failure often comes from not asking for enough.
So think big and don't be afraid to aim high.
And he ends with some really powerful words of encouragement. He says, you won't fail because of a lack of talent. You'll develop what you need as you go. Don't let fear hold you back. Proceed with confidence and faith.
It's like he's saying the universe has your back if you're following these principles.
Exactly. And he suggests focusing all your energy on these teachings, avoiding distractions, and using your leisure time to contemplate your vision, cultivate gratitude, and reread his book.
He's giving us a clear roadmap for success. And finally, in his summary of the science of getting rich, he brings it all together. He reminds us about the existence of this thinking substance, the power of thought to create, and our ability to use our thoughts to shape reality.
He emphasizes the shift from a competitive to a creative mindset, and the importance of staying in harmony with this formless intelligence through gratitude.
He's saying gratitude is the key to unlocking the flow of abundance.
Right, and he outlines the steps. Form a clear mental image of what you want. hold it with unwavering faith and gratitude, and know that it's already being given to you in the unseen realm. Spend your leisure time contemplating this vision and giving thanks.
It's about creating a mental and emotional space for what you want to receive.
And he says that this process sets creative forces in motion, working through natural channels to bring your desires into the physical world.
So it's not about magic, it's about aligning yourself with the laws of the universe.
Exactly. But he emphasizes that you also have to be an active participant in this process. You have to take action, always striving to go beyond what's expected of you, and always give more in use value than you take in cash value.
It's about being a contributor, not just a consumer, and maintaining that advancing thought, always radiating the energy of growth and expansion.
He concludes by saying that those who follow these instructions will undoubtedly become rich in direct proportion to the clarity of their vision, the strength of their purpose, the firmness of their faith, and the depth of their gratitude.
So, the learner, as we come to the end of this deep dive into Wallace D. Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich, what's your biggest takeaway? What resonates most with you?
We've covered a lot of ground, and it's a lot to take in. But hopefully this has been a helpful overview of Wattles' core principles. Of course, we encourage you to explore the book for yourself and see what insights you uncover.
Because this is really just an invitation to delve deeper. And as you reflect on these ideas, consider how they might apply to your own life and your own goals. What resonates with you? What challenges you? And here's a final thought. Considering Wattles' emphasis on the creative power of thought and the interconnectedness of all things, what's one mental shift you could make today to start aligning yourself with this science of getting rich?
We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you might have. And maybe in future deep dives, we can explore certain aspects of this in even more detail. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for being here, The Learner.
恭喜你又听完了一本书，订阅以便不错过更多精彩节目，也别忘了分享给你的朋友，一起快乐听书学英语。